I miss Mike.
Welcome into a Patriots Beat, Patriots Daily crossover live from the Indianapolis Convention Center at the NFL Combine. Alex Barth, Tayler Kyles, Brian Hines with you from the second full day of the NFL Combine. We did get to talk to prospects for the first time today. We also heard from Eliot Wolf, the Vice President of Player Personnel, and also apparently still the holder of final say in New England. He told us that today. That was the big takeaway from his press conference. Gentlemen, we'll start there. Are you surprised, Eliot Wolf? Now, this comes a day after Mike Vrabel said he wouldn't be here if he didn't have significant control over the roster. Are you surprised that Eliot Wolf came out today and said he has final say?
Not exactly, because of the way Vrabel phrased it yesterday, where it sounded like he didn't exactly want to say, yes, it is me, because I think he does still want to empower Eliot Wolf, but I think that, as Eliot said, he's still going to try to put forth Vrabel's vision. It's not going to be Vrabel's guys and Wolf's guys. It's going to be the guys that they really want to be best for the football team. And again, Vrabel is going to be the one who really sets course for that.
Yeah, I wasn't that surprised. I still think Vrabel's going to have a big say in this. We all do, right? But yeah, Eliot's the executive vice president of player personnel. He's technically in charge of that, and he's doing the scouting, especially with the draft stuff.
Yeah.
I think you could kind of see two different paths here with free agency, where you expect Vrabel to have a big say in that. Wolf even said Vrabel's going to have his guys he likes in free agency, and then the draft where Vrabel's going to be like, all right, he's been scouting guys since October or since last year, right? He's more into that. So, yeah, I wasn't too surprised by his answer, but I do think, as Taylor said, this is a split joint operation.
Another way to put it maybe is it's Vrabel's meal, and Wolf is going to be in charge getting the groceries. Kind of a little Bill Parcellsism there.
Well, that's the reverse of it. But I guess what I wonder is, because final say can be different, I always kind of compare it to the tie-breaking vote, or you have the dictatorship, right? Don't think it's going to be a dictatorship. So if it's the tiebreaker, you have Mike Vrabel, you have Ryan Cowden, who's his right-hand man, who's up there in the personnel department as well, and we think John Stryker is going to have a significant say. How often are you going to need a tiebreaker?
Well,
right?
Well, that's the thing. If Wolf's saying he has final say, right? If those three come to him and say, we want this guy at pick 4, say, I don't know who in this draft exactly, but say it's like a Cole Strange type of thing where it's a really consensus reach. If they come to him at Wolf and say, we want this guy, is Wolf going to pitch his wagon to that player, being like, okay, I'm in charge here. I have final say. If this goes badly, it's on me. I'm out of here. They're not firing Ryan Cowden. They're not firing Mike Vrabel. And then, that's my one shot at this job. So that's where this could get interesting, and maybe we get some butting heads. If Vrabel's camp has a really interesting option where they want to go in the draft, and Wolf's like, I don't really like that, then there could be some interesting conflict.
Or it could be the other way around, too.
Yeah, 100%.
And there could obviously be conflict. We have no idea how this is going to go, how well they all get along. But I did think it was notable that we heard from Eliot Wolf that Ryan Cowden is a guy who they've known each other for 20 years. The places they came up had pretty similar philosophies. And we already know that Mike Vrabel and Eliot Wolf, it seems like they really do work pretty well together, at least for now. Obviously, this is fairly early on. We're in the honeymoon stage. When it was Gerard Mayo and Eliot Wolf, we were kind of saying similar things last year, right? So time will ultimately tell. But I do think that when you have Cowden and Vrabel and Stretch, I feel like they're probably going to have similar perspectives. There may be differences, of course, when you have so many players to talk about. But I think maybe you're just getting those different perspectives. It's going to be overall shared. But when we say final say again, I think Eliot will make those decisions knowing that Vrabel is probably leaning one way or the other, wants to get him the best players because it's Vrabel's team.
I will say, I talked about this yesterday. My big thing to watch today was, what did Eliot Wolf learn from last year? And how is that going to impact his plan for this offseason? And I think I said it with you guys on the show yesterday, we're probably going to have to read between the lines on that a little bit. No, he came right out and said we didn't get the intel we should have in free agency. Free agency class did not give us what we expected them to. We overloaded Jalen Polk, stunted his growth. That's an exact quote from Eliot Wolf. We stunted the growth of Jalen Polk. And there's some other nuggets in there as well. I think he said at one point we didn't do the things we needed to do in terms of offering free agents top of the market money. So it's one thing to say it. Obviously, you got to do it. But he gave a pretty detailed list. And a lot of the things that we've said externally and griped about from last offseason, he basically came out and said, yep, I did that. That's on me. That needs to be better.
Give you any feel like the Robert Kraft press conference at the end of the
a
year
little bit,
where they fired Gerard Mayo and he got right up there and said, that was on me. I put Gerard Mayo in a bad situation and took full accountability. Just kind of, felt like that because, again, like Wolf got up there, opening statement, not even questions, just, excited to be here. And then that was on me. That roster last year on me. So it was interesting to me.
Yeah, and I also thought it was kind of interesting that when we talked about the construction of the roster last year, obviously we knew that was kind of bare, and there weren't a lot of things they could do. But when you talk about Jalen Polk specifically, because everybody kind of wants to give up on him after 1 year, and yes, it was historically bad. I completely understand why people are hesitant, but at the same time, when you look at the circumstances, not just what we thought, not just what Eliot thought, which really does matter a lot, but he's not always going to be 100%, but really reinforcing it. I know when you tweeted it, people kind of pushed back and were like, how are they putting too much on his plate? Steve Smith Sr. and James Palmer on Steve Smith's podcast both pointed out they thought the same thing, and they said this, I think it was 2 weeks ago that video came out, where because you did have Polk playing X, playing Z. And yeah, it's really nice on paper when you have the guy who can play both outside spots, but it was pretty obvious, that especially once the confidence became an issue, that there was just too much for Jalen Polk. And then Gerard Mayo says, yes, mentally he's maybe going through some stuff, and then he has to kind of defend himself and say, I don't have mental problems. And I thought Steve Smith and James Palmer made a great point that he was probably just doing that to kind of have some confidence and be able to say, I really more for himself, not for us, but because he was speaking to the media, it was interpreted like, why is this rookie saying this when he has all these drops and no production? So I think that what he said was pretty transparent. There are going to be times where Eliot's not 100%. That's because it's his job in some ways. But I do think that Jalen Polk was put in a tough spot. And it's going to be interesting to see how the impact of Vrabel and having Todd Downing, who isn't a receivers coach, but can give him a quarterback's perspective as someone who's worked at that position. I think that could be pretty interesting, and hopefully he spends a lot of time with Drake May this offseason.
It's an important lesson to learn because, look, they didn't stunt Drake May's growth, at least not significantly, but it doesn't just happen to rookies, right? It can happen to second, third-year players. They're going to draft some guys this year that need to be clear, that need to have success. It's all about learning from past mistakes. I think that's, if Eliot Wolf is going to remain in charge, sounds like he is at least to an extent, right? If he's going to remain in charge, there needs to be changes. There needs to be significant changes, not just to the operation, but to the philosophies they operated with last year, and it was good to kind of see him own up to that today.
He even said, back to free agency, they weren't thorough enough in some of their information last year, and what that means. We can speculate.
I mean, we got together and we figured out 3 players right away.
There were some guys with who came with injuries. Maybe they didn't have the full medical details. A couple guys who changed positions. The Chooks tackle, Nick Lorette playing guard and playing center, KJ Osborne moving inside outside. Didn't seem like they had the full picture on some of these guys. So they said they should be more thorough, and they want to be more thorough. Which
better be more thorough, especially this year. And to go to the draft too, when you're looking at guys that have injuries, and there's some significant players with injuries in this draft that makes sense for them. Josh Simmons, Bryson Nesbitt. I still think Siobhan Revels may be in play for them, depending on how the medicals come back. He'll talk tomorrow. I'm actually interested in hearing that. But yeah, I mean, you can't be coming up short, and it cost them this year. Chooks Corfor is supposed to be a key player. I think Sione Takitaki was supposed to be a really key player for them. And the only reason we didn't really talk about that is they never even got close to him being in that role, because he hurt his knee early. And by the time he came back, I mean, they were off and running. So
I don't think he practiced once, right? The whole offseason?
No, because he wasn't on the field in the spring, right?
Yeah.
And then he missed all camp, and that's you figure if he wasn't on the field for the start of the spring, it was something they probably should have picked up on.
And that was
in free agency.
Wolf's guy. He came from Cleveland. He was with them before, so that should have been the one that they got right.
Well, it makes sense why maybe they looked a little less at the medicals, where it's you get comfortable with this is my guy, right? And so that actually leads us to, if you guys are good on Wolf.
I do want to say with Takitaki, I think the coaching was a big part of it. We saw all those veteran linebackers struggle, and a guy who's been in the league that long, who at times for Takitaki looked like he had no awareness, was chasing plays, and it didn't really feel like playing under a lot of control. There was that element as well, but then also personalities. I think that was part of it. Maybe they didn't have good intel on who they were bringing in. I don't want to throw KJ Osborne under the bus, because it was one incident, but at the same time, he was brought in to be the leader of that room alongside Kendrick Bourne, who was obviously rehabbing and whatnot. And then you did have that one tweet, where he shows what he was saying to his agent in the Jacksonville game, where he actually got in, wasn't supposed to play, not the kind of thing you expect from a veteran leader. And then going back to Chooks Okorafor, the scheme fit being a left tackle when he probably was more comfortable at right, even though he also kind of gave us mixed messaging. But then
he said in the spring, we asked him about moving sides. He was like, it's not easy.
And then later on, he was, but even before that, he was like, it's not really a big deal. So kind of, I think once
until he started doing it. Yeah.
Exactly. But then even that, it looked worse, because the year before that, he was benched because he was kind of talking crap about his coach and did it openly in the locker room. Mike Tomlin didn't like that, and Chooks said to reporters, I wouldn't have signed a contract if I'd known this was going to happen.
Right.
So that just felt like a small breadcrumb to the fact that he didn't like what was happening in New England and was like, I'm out. So I think even more than just the medicals and all the, the scheme fit and everything, I think you need to really understand the people you're bringing into your organization. And last year, that was a huge emphasis, and to kind of have so many guys that didn't pan out was really disappointing.
I think there's a fine line, because with Taki, what I was going to say is I wonder if what happened was Eliot Wolf felt like he had an understanding because he had drafted him and he had been with him, but it had been 2 or 3 years since they'd been together, and 2 or 3 years, an eternity in the NFL. So that brings us to this offseason where I'll say, I understand wanting to bring in players you're familiar with, and that can work. That can work very well, but you still need to do the due diligence on them as you would with a guy you're bringing in for the first time. So today we get news the Tennessee Titans are allowing Harold Landry to seek a trade. Is he an option for the Patriots? We'll discuss that right after Brian tells you about Prize Picks.
Oh, damn.
Oh, I thought you were doing it.
Prize Picks, where you just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. What do we got? Pacers game tonight?
Yeah, Pacers-Raptors.
They're playing the Raptors. Pascal Siakam, revenge game. You could pick more on his points. I know Luka played the Mavs last night. I don't know if they're going to play again. Who the Celtics got, Amit? Detroit. So Tatum.
I think Detroit's like the hottest team in the NBA right now.
Tatum, Moore, or Cade Cunningham. Is he having a good year?
Cade Cunningham's been nice.
Okay.
Cade Cunningham's been really
plenty
good.
of basketball on Prize Picks, hockey, baseball season starting soon as well. So make sure you guys use promo code CLNS, play $5 new customers, and get $50 instantly. You don't even have to win, Taylor. So
good, because I'm not good at winning.
Play $5. Hopefully, we're going to try to win on our lineups, but play $5, $50 instantly on Prize Picks. Run your game.
All right. So back to.
Oh my gosh.
There's a dog in here, apparently. Imagine if the mics didn't pick that up. It was just all of us. Harold Landry, Titans are going to let him seek a trade. This is a guy that was the second draft pick ever of the Mike Vrabel tenure in Tennessee. After I think it was for Sean Evans, the linebacker from Alabama, but was in Tennessee with Vrabel. Had more sacks during Vrabel's tenure than any player with the Titans. 71 in 6 seasons, 9.5 last year. Has had some injuries. 28 years old. He's due, I think, at $17 million this year. Believe it's final year of his contract. Should the Patriots be in on Harold Landry? They need pass rush. He can get to the quarterback. He's not one of these elite guys, but he is available, and he does give you some juice in that regard. So the Patriots being on Harold Landry.
I think so. Like, they have to remodel this whole edge group, right? Like,
yeah.
And that's a guy who is familiar with Mike Vrabel. He's still productive. Now, he can't be the main guy, right? Because 100%. You look at the sack total. The sack total's there, like 19.5 sacks the last 2 years since he's come back from that torn ACL. But the pass rush win rate has really fallen off. I think it was like 3 or 4% last year, so it was a low pass rush win rate. But he could be one of those guys that can help clean up, right? So if you have Christian Barmore and maybe Milton Williams on the interior pushing the pocket, and then you hope you get one of these good edge rushers in the draft, then maybe Harold Landry can be kind of your cleanup guy. So I think it makes sense, just the need at the position, the familiarity with Mike Vrabel. You want to talk about him bringing his own guys in, a guy who's played under Terrell Williams, the culture setting. Like I think it makes a ton of sense. Probably a late pick swap or a late pick. You're going to have to rework the contract. You're not going to pay him that, but I think the fit makes a lot of sense.
If the compensation and the payment are good, I don't really see much downside, because we've been talking about Josh Sweat, right? Not similar players, because I think Josh Sweat is better, but if Vrabel says, hey, I want familiarity and I want a guy where I know exactly what I'm going to be getting out of him, I think that Harold Landry makes a lot of sense, and especially he usually plays on the defense's left side. That's Anthony Jennings' position, and obviously you don't really want to take him off the field on early downs because he's one of the best run stoppers in the league, but I kind of like the idea of a little rotation there where when Jennings is off the field, Harold Landry comes on. Like, he's still got a really nice ghost move, still got some bend, and then he's also got some inside counter. So he's got ways to win as a pass rusher, and the familiarity in Vrabel's scheme, I think, will do him wonders. So, again, if you want familiarity with there's edge depth in this draft class, not great, not like the defensive tackles necessarily, but it's still good. So if you say, hey, Josh Sweat's a good player, not necessarily a fit for us, I think Harold Landry makes a ton of sense. I will say this. So I'm in on Harold Landry for the reasons you said. Makes sense. They need a pass rusher. He can't be their only addition, but if you get a Josh Sweat or you draft, one of these ends, it turns out to be a stud. I'm not going to say Carter because he won't be on the board, but like one of these guys as like a secondary option, as a cleanup guy, he can be really good. And he's only 28. The injuries I think at this point are more behind him than not. That being said, I don't know that you need to trade for him.
I don't know how big his market's going to be at $17 million. And we do this all the time where, well, no, the Patriots have to trade for him because they won't be able to get him in free agency. Landry's probably an exception. The pitch is very easy. You come here in a defense that you've had success with in the past, where you're going to get significant playing time, and you work that deal down to a 1-year deal. And it's, all right, now next year at 29, you get to hit free agency and go get paid, either here or somewhere else. So, and
he gets to go back to a place where he played in college.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm in on Harold Landry. I think he makes a ton of sense. I wouldn't rush trade for him now. If you get the intel that, he's about to go to the Chiefs, or he's about to go to the Bills, or he's about to go to the Niners, he's about to go wherever, right? Now maybe get on the phone and you try to get him. I wouldn't be aggressive, but, they have 3 7th-round picks. Do you package 2 of those? Like you said, trade swap, something like that, pick swap. But he's a guy I think maybe they could get in free agency. So that's one in. We could also get one out. The report today that Devon Godshaw has been given permission to seek a trade. And it was noted, I think it was Rap Sheet who reported it, right? Mm-hmm. Due to a scheme change. Yep. So we've kind of danced around this for the last few weeks, and it's even more confirmation that they're going to use this lighter, faster, more aggressive defense. This is why a guy like Harold Landry would fit. But it's not a great fit for an old-school 2-gapping nose tackle.
Yeah, and that's like all my questions to Wolf and to Vrabel have basically been trying to find whatever their take was on that. Are you going to fit the scheme to the players or vice versa? Like, how are you going to address the spine of the defense with all the injuries to Duggar, Peppers, Bentley, Christian Barmore, of course. So we've been trying to kind of pry this out of them. And like you said, you got to read between the lines, because there's one thing they can say. Like, they can't come out and be like, yep, we're going to clean house. But at the same time, Vrabel did give us the nugget of, like, it's going to look very different. So now we're starting to get an inkling of what that's going to be like. And our thought that, it seems like there's, again, the middle of the defense seems like they're not really a great fit for what Vrabel wants to do. And with Devon Godshaw, if you're playing a lot of 4-man lines, there's not room for a nose tackle like him where, in that 5-man front, you have 5 guys in the middle. If it's a guy who does not move, that's where your defensive tackles and your edge guys can really eat. But in 4-down fronts, it's really tough to consistently have a nose tackle in this game who gives you almost no pass rush outside of sometimes pushing the pocket. So, I think Devon Godshaw still a very good run defender, one of the more vocal guys in the locker room who always held people accountable. But in a new regime, it makes a lot of sense to try to move on and get somebody who gives you a little more versatility.
Brian?
Yeah. We talked about it yesterday. Vrabel saying this roster is going to look vastly different from now to the end of August. And I think we mentioned Devon Godshaw as maybe one of those guys, Jelani Tavai too. So you could see with them going to this defense that we thought, like, you could see this move coming. So now we get to talk more about those, maybe more up the field, 1-gap linemen, Milton Williams, some of these guys, Mason Graham in the draft.
Cameron Jackson, who said he had a great X's and O's talk with Mike Vrabel.
Check out our interview on actually Patriots CLNS. We got the interview with Cameron Jackson. He's the first one I got. Yeah,
I will figure out the Detroit Lions. Levy,
Ozariki, I think.
Ozariki,
something like that. Yeah.
Played under Terrell Williams last year. Had a career year. That could be another guy. So, definitely looks like this scheme change is what we kind of expected to happen on the defensive front.
And to add on that, we talked about this before the show. I've kind of been in the mentality of if Barmore does play, he should probably be your nose tackle. He's got the size. He's played a ton of nose tackle already. We know he can do it. He can beat the double teams. He can stand up to them. It's not like it's going to be a massive wear and tear on his body necessarily, because a lot of the guys you talked about in free agency, Levi, Milton Williams, those are 3 techniques. They can play, a little bit of that more nose tackle between the center and the guard, but really you want Milton Williams playing on the outside shoulder of those guards for as many one-on-one matchups as possible. But one other thing that Eliot Wolf mentioned is how deep this draft class is at defensive tackle. And naturally, if you're deep at defensive tackle, there's going to be a whole lot of noses on day 3. So I think there's going to be plenty of options. Actually, a guy who plays at Indiana, I think it's C.J. West, really was one of the standouts at the Senior Bowl. So I think when it comes especially to middle, I think they have every avenue to significantly improve on the interior, bring more pass rush than we've seen in years recently.
But there being so many defensive tackles available, I do think it is good. What do you get for Godshaw, right?
Oh, we just negotiated a trade.
That is true. We were talking to Trags, who covers the Bengals. I offered him Godshaw in 104 for 81. Little pick swap, because I think that might be a little high. That might be a little rich, but that's probably what it's going to be. You're not going to get any more, straight up, you're not going to get any more than the 4th, because nobody's going to give you what you got for Judon, for Godshaw. Teams are going to look at it and say, these are different players. That's not a realistic ask. So best case scenario, you get somebody really desperate. Maybe it is the Bengals. You get a 4th outright. They don't have a 5th-round pick, so you can't pick swap a 5th to a 4th. Can you do a 6th to a 4th? Maybe 2 of those 7ths in Godshaw for a 5th, something like that. But, the more day 3 picks you add, I don't need them making all those picks. I don't need them to make 10 picks in this draft. But now let's say you get a 4th-round pick, optimistic. Let's say you get a 4th-round pick for Devon Gotcha. You have 2/3, 2/4, a 6, and 3/7. You should be moving up. Yes. You should end up with another top 100 pick between all of that.
Or there's a pick for Harold Landry, or the next player
you're
that
flipping.
becomes available.
Right, exactly.
Like,
so
if Marcus Jones, again, if we're talking about all these guys that are going to get offloaded, there's at least 3 you could point to on defense where you're at least going to get enough capital.
You think Marcus Jones?
I do.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the size, he is significantly smaller than anybody that Mike Vrabel has had at corner. He likes those guys to be about 5'10". He likes them to be about 190. He'll stray to 188. He'll sometimes go to 5'9" if you're a bulkier guy. But Marcus Jones, especially with the injury history, going to be a free agent next year.
And Vrabel specifically mentioned yesterday how someone asked him about trends in the game since he first started, and he specifically mentioned how important the nickel position has been on the defense. So definitely could see Marcus Jones.
The only thing I wonder there,
cries and Cooper
DeJean, do Jeremy Springer and Josh McDaniels kind of go to him and be like, no, we need to keep this guy.
So
you play him as a backup.
That's where it comes. We were talking about this on the way to Indy. What does Marcus Jones get, a 5th-round pick? Is it better to keep him as I'd
rather have him as a returner,
all-pro returner.
Maybe move him back to safety or something.
Yeah, I think there's a way to replace Marcus Jones as the nickel, but still he brings so much value as a returner. Is that worth more than a 5th or a 6th-round pick, and just having more depth in your secondary?
What concerns me there is, one, he's an injury concern, and again, he's in the last year of his contract. If he had 2 more years and wasn't quite someone who missed as much time as he does, I would be more open to it. I really like Marcus Jones. I thought, yes, he gives up plays because of the size, but he's hyper-competitive. For all the big plays he gives up, he also makes plenty as well. I think forced incompletions, he was up there, as well as with explosive catches allowed, so not perfect, obviously, but as much as we like him, he is an upgradable player. You look at Elijah Huzzie out of North Carolina. If you really like him, and he's a guy that you could see.
Is it Huzzie or Huzzie? Have we figured out?
It's a Huzzie. It's a Huzzie.
I think we're talking to him tomorrow.
But
wait, which one of the 3 of us is going to go talk to him while the other 2 do Travis Hunter? Because they're talking at the same time.
I'll talk to him.
All right, Taylor's doing it.
I'm more than happy. I don't
He
even
might
need
be
to know.
hurt.
Maybe, but regardless,
But the hurt guy's still to the podium.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we'll get more clarity on that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whatever he is, I think he's like a bigger Marcus Jones, and that's literally exactly what you want. The
that's
return
kind of
upside, just a bulkier guy.
Or
who
if
can play
you're
man.
looking at the top of the draft, that 2nd pick, Jahdae Barron from Texas, if he falls, that's Vrabel talking about wanting to play zone, a bigger guy, that is Jahdae Barron. And if he has that kind of, he's probably a 1st-round talent, but if he has that Cooper DeJean thing to him where it's okay, he's a nickel. Where are we valuing a nickel on our draft board? Is he there at 38? That could be a good value.
Yeah.
Billy Bowman has safety nickel range, doesn't he? Or flexibility?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I like him a lot.
I really like. I actually talked to Danny Stutzman today, the linebacker from Oklahoma, who's a good player on his own, by the way.
Yeah.
And I asked him, "What can you tell me about Billy Bowman?" He was like, "We're going to run out of time." He was like, he talked about him. He actually kind of sounded like a Vrabel type. Said he goes about his business every day. First in, last out kind of guy. Works hard, competitor. Quiet, intense, that sort of guy.
Yeah, sound like a Vrabel guy.
Right, I really liked Billy Bowman at the Senior Bowl, so I'm hoping to talk to him tomorrow too. He could be him, Mac McWilliams. So Billy Bowman's primarily a safety who can play some corner. Mac McWilliams is an interesting one from UCF. He played primarily boundary corner at UCF. He's going to be a slot corner in the NFL. He's 5'10", but I think he can play some safety too. He actually reminds me a little bit of Marcus Jones. I don't think he has quite the top speed Marcus Jones does, but similar player because Marcus Jones, is feisty, right? That kind of thing, plays much bigger than his size. So there's a number of those guys in this draft. If you're looking for one of those tweener, nickel, slot, safety guys, especially on day 3, I think there's a bunch of those guys in this draft.
And it's kind of nice. And also when Eliot Wolf, we asked him about where he was asked where really the strengths are in this draft. He pointed defensive line, running back, tight end. So he didn't point to cornerback necessarily, but I think with that nickel spot in safety, when you start looking at day 3, it seems like there will be some guys that should fit that old Vrabel mold.
All right, so just to look ahead to tomorrow, we'll get the first workouts from the defensive linemen and linebackers. We'll talk to the defensive backs and tight ends. Oh, actually, one more from today. I talked to Ben Sauls. And he is also very intense.
Why didn't we lead the show with this?
That's a good point. He has a previous relationship with Jeremy Springer. I guess he knew him when he was at Arizona, so he said when he met with him, it was good to connect.
Jeremy Springer's a social butterfly.
There you go. So anyway, tomorrow we'll talk. Just remind me of it. Tomorrow we'll talk to because I was thinking all right, today we did defensive line, linebackers. Oh, and there was a 3rd position. Tomorrow there's only 2. We'll talk to the safeties and tight ends who are together for whatever reason. More or less 50% of the Bryson Nesbitt scrum is Patriots reporters?
As it should be.
More, yeah.
More or less 10 questions about Drake May.
10 is a lot. That's a lot of time.
These guys stay up there for like 15 minutes. They stay up there for a while.
They do get a lot of questions.
Yeah. Have you met with the
I'll
Patriots?
go under,
Not
but
a
I'm
Drake
going to go
May
like
question, by the way.
I'm going to go under, but like 8.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Less.
You guys
Just
can enjoy that. I'm going to talk to Robbie Utes, who will be at the same podium, by the way, that Ben Sauls was at. So they're just sticking me in that corner. They're good with me. Anybody else you guys are looking forward to hearing from tomorrow?
Harold Fannin. You know, I'm a really big fan of his game. Obviously, a smaller school prospect. And, okay, is it going to translate? I thought he looked really impressive at the Senior Bowl. And the whole point of small school prospects is if you're going to come from a place like that and make it to the league, you need to dominate. And Harold Fannin's out there, like, making crazy catches, dragging people, outrunning the defense as a 230-pound tight end. Like, I just think he's a fascinating prospect. So I'll be interested to kind of see and pick his brain and see what he's kind of like as more of a on the mental side of his game.
Brian.
Definitely, there's so many good tight ends. You know, Warren and Loveland, if you want to go to the top. I think Warren's not, or both of them aren't doing drills, so be interesting to hear what they talk. And if those two met with the Patriots, you know, that will be kind of interesting because the range that they're going in, right? That would be a pretty significant trade down, you would imagine. So those two guys, not many safeties, really. I'll probably talk to Hunter Waller, just Badger, you know, show him some love. But I love Hunter Waller. He's a good football player, but that's pretty much it.
Well, Hunter Waller, Robbie Utes,
Harold Fannin.
Harold Fannin's like a top 50 pick.
Yeah, we're talking like.
Well, I don't know. I've heard some kind of like wonky positioning of where he's going to go because of the.
Who's like your real
like your 7th
day
rounder.
3 defensive back or tight end?
I wish Dan Jackson was here. Dan Jackson
I was going to
say
you're going to say his name, and like half the people listening
He's
are
going
to
to Philly.
We know they know who Elijah Huzzy is. They spam the chat with him.
Dan Jackson is going to Philly, and the exciting whites are just going to.
But he didn't go to
maximize.
Oh yeah, no,
themselves.
I just think he went to Alabama for some reason. You're right. He's a Georgia.
Georgia, yeah. Oh, even better.
All right, well, Tayler,
exactly.
you got to come up. You got to talk to them all tomorrow.
Yeah.
And find a tight end or a safety who's supposed to go like outside the top 150. Who you're just like, this is my guy.
I'm like blanking right now.
That's
I do not know
homework.
why. I'll find them.
It's been a long day, so look at the interview list when you go home tonight. Come back tomorrow, pick like 4 or 5 guys you want to talk to, and tomorrow on the show, you're going to have a new favorite round 6, round 7 safety or tight end. That's your homework assignment.
Deal. I love homework.
All right.
Wait, isn't Travis Hunter tomorrow, or am I?
Travis Hunter's tomorrow.
Too. None of us even bother. We're Robbie Utes,
Hunter Waller,
Bryson Nesbitt, Heisen. Oh yeah, I'm like the most hyped prospect
I was like, am
in 5 years.
Losing my mind, or is Travis Hunter going tomorrow?
I'll say this though about Hunter. I'm not necessarily anticipating his podium as much because the question is going to be, what side do you want to play in the NFL? And he's going to say, I want to play both ways. And somebody's going to ask him, where are you more comfortable? And he's going to say, wherever the team needs me. And that's going to be that. And we'll have to hear reports from team meetings, more starting to trickle out. So there's a Colts reporter today. I'm blanking on his name. Let me see if it's up on my recent tweets here so I can properly give him credit, who said most of the people he's talking to at this point, I don't know how many people he talked to, but most of the people he's talking to are seeing Travis Hunter as a wide receiver, which is obviously a departure from where we were about a month and a half ago. As I stall here to wrap it up, if you want to, guys, help me fill time, but that's what we're looking at for tomorrow.
Wolf was asked about him today. Anything stick out about his answer?
Who's that? I'm sorry.
Wolf asked about Travis Hunter. He didn't really, we had the Colts we had Andrew Berry with the Browns yesterday literally say we have him as a wide receiver. Wolf wasn't that definitive one way or another, but
I thought that was like the most generic answer he gave.
Yeah.
Where I was listening to it, I was trying to see if there was anything that kind of caught my ear, and I was like, oh no, that was pretty boilerplate, which I can't blame him for. Like, you don't want to tip your hand too much, and if Travis Hunter falls, there's always a chance that somebody maybe trades up and tries to get him. Who knows?
He did say when he was on Patriots.com when Matt Groh went to Colorado to scout him, he did like separate scouting reports, like one as a corner and one as a wide receiver.
Makes sense.
So that was interesting. Yeah.
You see that online too. Like I know the Draft Network, they've got the one for him as a corner and the one as, and it makes sense because there were some things that overlap, but really it's only fair to truly evaluate him at both spots, especially considering the level of involvement he had.
All right. Well, we will. No, you guys are out of here tomorrow.
We'll be here until like 5.
Okay, so you're going to have to tweet out then. I don't know if we're going to get a chance to do a show. You might have to tweet out who your favorite day 3 guy is.
Easy. I can't wait. I'll be here.
I'll be here for another day, too. We'll continue to have coverage. PatsPulpit.com, CLNS.com, 985thesportshub.com. And check out the Patriots Press Pass YouTube page. Taylor did an interview with CLNS legend Mike Petraglia about the Bengals situation, how that could check. It really should be. How that will impact the Patriots. So check that out. Until next time, for these two, I'm Alex Barth. Thanks for tuning in.